and Breakdowns.
Welcome back to the Chill Sounds and Breakdowns podcast. We are on episode 112, and this one, I feel like there's going to be a lot of shit in here because we're looking at, unfortunately, like an end of an era, like here, and it's kind of, I don't know, like as from what I can see, it's got you know a real big like emotional state like for you guys where it's been a wild ride for a time. But today we have Chris and Jonathan from Forget Conformity and a whole bunch of other projects by the way. But yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah. So how are y'all doing?
Go ahead.
I'm great, man. Like this is I want to say first off, thank you. By the way, I'm not sure if you took how this even came about any type of way, but this was something that I felt that I approached in a way that's not really the way I like to do things.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a place in my life where I was doing a lot of things where I was approaching them in the ways I didn't really want to do them. So I appreciate you being like you have been since we met years and years ago.
Yeah.
Just a really good dude about this and really giving us a platform still to talk about the things that we have done and the things that we kind of still want to do. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. I feel great now. I feel really good.
That's good. That's good. No, I mean, just to be like upfront and frank, yeah, like, it did feel a little weird, like the way like it was approached, and I was like, oh, like it wasn't like it kind of felt like you at the time. Again, this is a whole like emotional kind of thing that's happening right now, and I did take that. But yeah, there was a little bit of like maybe you weren't being recognized or something like that, and a lot of it's just like I just am like kind of busy and moving around, so I'll forget to like respond to stuff, and then just things off the radar. So it wasn't like an undeserving thing or something like that, and I think that's kind of what came off, and immediately like the thing now like is like if I get defensive about something or I feel like somebody there's some sort of like aggressiveness behind a message or something like that, I always just wait on it. I don't like kind of respond to the same thing and be like, okay, like it's probably something else or whatever. But yeah, no, it happens. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's not the biggest thing in the world. But no, I appreciate you talking about it and bringing it up. But
How do you feel?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What? I'm so confused now.
Yeah, there was a lot of good
I mean, about FC ending, about the whole thing.
Just in general.
Let's start. Yeah.
Oh, in general. I mean, I've just been really busy with work. Like, and then ending FC was like something we wanted to do. We wanted to do it on our terms and not like other people's terms because COVID really like shook the core of the band. We came back from a really long tour, and we lost a member immediately. And so that made things difficult. So we didn't do anything for quite some time. And that's when we started doing the other projects. But, ending FC after 10 years was like awesome. Not just the ending it, but like the whole experience overall from start to finish was awesome. Not a lot of people get to take something from nothing and make it go 10 years later to what it wasn't,
Yeah.
So like overall, it was like even the ups and downs, it's still the best experience. I wouldn't change anything about it. So.
And this is just like you were saying, like you guys have like a lot of other projects kind of going on. So this is not the end of like music or anything like that for y'all. It's just this specific project. So do you find yourself like spending more time on those other projects and be like, this one's kind of was losing a little bit of like the investment, I guess, into it?
No, FC always had the investment. It was always our main priority. We just always sometimes. Like when you don't have a guitarist, period, and you only got vocals, drums, and bass, it makes it really hard even to play with the clicks. You're just playing the same things you've been playing.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard to write new music, but then when you don't have that other guitarist, then you can't show new guitarists the parts to learn. Yeah. So that's where the whole, hey, well, maybe we should all consider playing with some other people until we figure out what we want to do with this. And that's kind of how that happened. Basilisk was really fun. Yeah. But we just had a member, and and it's with every band. There's always one member in every band throughout the entire band's history that is the one person that may be just as good as everybody, but like is too standoffish or holds you back or, you know, doesn't always agree with everybody or is just always argumentative, you know, and that can change throughout people in the band. It's not always the same person, you know. And with Basilisk, that's just what happened. Like, that was really fun. And then all of a sudden it was like, nobody wants to play with this person anymore. And we were like, okay. Yeah. So,
no,
you know,
band chemistry is like the most essential thing to have for anything to work. Like it's always like the foundation. If you don't have that, like it's hard to build anything up because you're rocky. Again, it takes one person who wants to play with it. It's done, you know what I mean? Because it's not like y'all have had experience with this, but you can't just replace like a person with another person and be like, it's gonna work. You know, you have to find a chemistry and find someone that fits and find someone that's gonna go where you're going. And and it's not the easiest thing.
The crazy thing is, we did that so much.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like the thing. It was like of all the reasons why a band can like say, okay, we need to stop playing or this and that. It's like, okay, we're replacing guitarist number like 5 at that point in time.
Wow.
Because by the time I got in the band, they were even trying out 2 guitarists on top of one main.
Because one was leaving.
Yeah, and then another guy leaves right after we play our first So What in 2017. He leaves, so we have to replace him. But we found Nate. So that was, we found Subu at that time. That was see so many people.
Yeah.
So we had a Subu in a band, and in between there, we, after that, we had Nate, and Nate was a godsend because he became a foundational piece to the way that when we came back after COVID, like our sound, like the way we sound now as the end of Forget Conformity,
it's not the way we sounded when we left for tour.
No, not at all. Yeah. And it's so much better and so much denser, and so
like adding Zach.
Adding
Zach from Viridis.
because
he came in and like learned all of our parts and helped us write some new music. And
saved the band, really. We wouldn't have come back without Zach.
Yeah, without Zach, it wouldn't have happened. Like it wouldn't have. We were prepared to accept that and just record what we had. Maybe get some guitarists to do some fill-in work for us while we record, and just put out a last album.
And that would have been the end that we didn't want. We didn't want to be like, well,
we're just accepting defeat.
It's the consolation prize.
Yeah.
Like the thing.
We wanted to set everything up and kind of like, all right, so if we're gonna do this, we're gonna last it all the way through until this point. And we got again lucky that Baker's in Baker and Sam are in Afasic, so we had 2 ready guitarists that said, hey, if you need help, we'll come in and learn everything. And Tristan came in and again changed our sound, like gave us some layers and stuff that we didn't have before, and stuff that's always been in our heads, but we just didn't have the guys
to flourition.
Exactly. Not being guitarist, but being so involved in the songwriting process, you have to find guitarists that are able to, like communicate and get all that with you, the chemistry part. And luckily the last, I guess, 3 people we had in the band were able to kind of do that. But before,
when Zach had to bounce, suddenly because of his job, he's a very busy individual like the rest of us. When he had to bounce, that's when we asked Tristan and Aaron, who play in the Afasic with me. And I was like, does one of you guys or both of you guys want to learn half of the set? And Tristan was like, I'll do it.
He's such a good guitarist. I mean, they're both really, really good. But Tristan, it's a funny name because he was in Monsters Made Me. And they had a song so Sam was in Monsters Made Me too. So it's like they had a song that sounded just like a beginning of one of our songs.
Yeah, we remember being at Tomcats playing a show together, and we're watching them play, and we're like, that's part of our song.
and it was like one of those accidental things, but it was so easy for him to pick up our style and then add to it when he joined.
Honestly, that's Tristan, because experience. Last night we had a Afasic practice, and they wrote this new song. It's in the same minor key as Heart of Sage. So me and Aaron are sitting here playing it, and we're like, this sounds just like this song, guys. And they're like, oh, crap.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, like being a musician and writing, like your influences pop out like without, like unconsciously, like without you thinking about it. And then and I'm the worst. And this was like when I was in a band, like I was always like, that sounds like this, like exactly. Like I was always the one pointing that stuff out. Yeah. But again, like most of it wasn't like on purpose. It's just like, it
just like
happens. Similar, unless it was like. an actual just like, oh, that's the exact same thing like they're playing. But I mean, what you were just saying, where you just hear like another band like playing a similar song to something like yours. Like I had that where like one of our guitar players was pitching like this song and nobody was on board with it. We're like, it's like something about it, like no
something
one likes
about it.
And then we just like, and we this was back. I can't remember the name of this band. Steady the Mammoth. Old like yeah. But they played their song. I can't remember the name of the song, but it starts and the riff was identical. And like the song wasn't recorded or anything like that, so it's not like we would have heard it. No. But I'm like, and we just looked at him. It's like, see, there was a reason why.
There's a reason we didn't do that.
Like but yeah, it just happens like all the time. I've noticed that like when with writing vocals and like lyrics and stuff like that, where I'm like, oh, like this is really cool, and then I'll later on where I hear it or I've heard the recording, we've already recorded everything, be like, damn, that's where I got this from. Like, straight up.
Not really meaning to bite the style, but you bite it anyway.
Yeah,
like, oh man, yeah, for sure.
Like that's where it comes from. That's where your writing will come from everything you've ever listened to and experienced. You know?
Oh,
It's there's bound to be some bleed over, and just like most of like the stuff where I look at it that way, I think of it more of like an homage. Like it's like, oh, I actually like that band or that music. Or sometimes it's cool when it's like, oh, I've never heard that band before.
Yeah, like
we wrote something.
We learned how to play Small Spark first. No.
Yeah, Norma Jean. So I was actually thinking that. So my whole stage performance is a ripoff of Corey. I love Corey so much. I give a and I hold the mic stand and I saw him do it. I like you kind of have to do and feel out your influences and take little bits and things because they did. Your influences took their influences and created their style, so you can take and. So we
covered that.
Yeah, Small Spark versus
and we turned it very much more like metalcore than it is with double bass. Because there's some in it, but not as much as I put in. And,
we had some fun with that one.
And because of that song and being able to play those really weird rudiments that they'd play in that song, we were actually able to write a song shortly after that was very close to like a Norma Jean old school song.
See, that's cool.
With dissonant chords and all the space in between and all that stuff. So that was really cool. And I feel like we were able to do that. Because Zach was playing with us at the time, but because we learned how to cover their song and do it, actually pretty well. Because one of the
the members, Corey liked it, and his brother Matthew. I actually talked with Matthew quite a bit, just like throwing ideas with him and stuff like that. He's been really good to me, just like listening to stuff.
Yeah,
like,
they saw our video and they were like, "This is really good, dudes! Like, great job!" And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" I was like, "Thank you," because it's so hard to play that drum part at the beginning, the clicks. Oh yeah, that's so hard.
See, but I think most artists or musicians would appreciate like that more than like, oh, they're trying to whatever it is. I mean, that's
it was all really we've as FC as a whole. I think we've only covered 3 songs, and I want to say we've only done it once with Chris in the band. I want to say the other time was before anybody. It was just me playing with the other dudes, and like I want to say the Norma Jean cover was probably.
It was the best.
We knocked it out of the park. I remember playing it at Reno's, and like people just like lost their shit when they realized what it was.
Yeah,
the thrice one not so good. We did. We did Silhouette. We can do it in practice, okay, and then on stage we did it once.
It falls
we're
apart.
not doing this again.
Yeah.
No,
that's also just one of those things. Like it's those guys see music differently than other people, like the time signatures and the patterns.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wait, that's not how you count that, but okay.
Like the seeing like things a lot differently has happened to me with like collaborative projects or just like even me sitting in like on sessions with other people and seeing other people write is really interesting because in your head, at least for me for a long time, I would always be like, this is the only way to write like a part to this song, like the way I'm thinking of it.
Right.
And then you would see someone else write completely different. And like, I don't know where the hell that came from. You know what I mean? Like, and it's really cool to actually gain those perspectives, and it just brings it back to your own music and be like, oh, maybe I can use some of this like technique in this. But where you're talking about like copying certain moves and things like that, that's how you find like your style for performance.
Yeah,
I noticed that a lot, like in the beginning, like of like copying like a lot of stuff. Like a lot of the reason why I even got in the band that I was seeing the combination. I think it was during it was Dance Gavin Dance during the Johnny Craig era, but seeing I was like, oh, like you can have both of these like type, like, you know, I was like, for me, like at the time, I was so new to like anything with like screaming or anything like that. I was like, oh, you can scream and then have like cool singing parts like next to each other. I'm like, that interests me. But from then on, like I emulated a lot of the stuff that I did, like even moves, certain like vocal things. Like I copied him, I copied Patrick's son from Fall Out Boy. There's a lot of things like initially that I would see, like, oh, those are in.
Yeah.
And then now to where like, we're at the end, I'm like, oh, I know how I sing now. And it doesn't, like, you can hear the influences, but it's not as blatant as it used to be in the beginning, because I was like, let me see if I can get that, and then eventually figure out how to sing my own way, you know?
Yeah.
Or figure out how to write my own.
So emulate till you create.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And so, like, another thing is, like, people...
You should make that up. Write it down.
People are always, like, they don't think about this aspect as a musician like we do. Sometimes it's not that we're copying someone, we're emulating that whatever, be it their persona, their stage persona, because as a musician, your music is only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
Even if it's super good, it's only going to get you so far. Like, and playing in a FASIC is a prime example. We can bring 15 people, or we can bring 50 plus, and there's no in between. Those are the numbers, and it's because we don't have a vocalist. We're an all instrumental band, so the people that are really into like Dance Gavin Dance style music with no vocals, or you know, or more towards the other spectrum, like Their Dogs Were Astronauts.
Okay.
So like people who like that will come, but then sometimes we play shows and it's just like people are watching and engaging, and then after a couple of songs, to them it's just the same thing because there's no vocals.
Yeah.
So like, and that's a thing that we struggle with in that band that I've never had to struggle with ever before in any other band.
I guess I do see that to a degree, and then I see stuff like Polyphia selling out the bomb, you know.
Yeah, but that's because
factory,
it's Polyphia.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and again, like they've been at it for a long time.
Yeah.
They're incredibly talented, but it's also the marketing side of like how they did. I'm like, again, to put it in the most basic terms, is like, you see them, watch them play, you hear what they're doing. It's like, it's cool as shit. Like you can't like deny like how like actually pretty cool like it is. And so and then they have this like personality to go with it. Like everybody like is good at what they do. Talent. And then like the way they present themselves is like, oh, okay, like I would go see them, like, because like I want to be part of like this experience.
And so that's for us in a FASIC, we get a lot of people who are into like that type of music, but that's so few and far between here in the GFW. You know, I know that when they come through, they sell out, but that's because it's Polyphia.
Yeah.
You know, like if Their Dogs Were Astronauts to come through, maybe 30 people would come. Just like when the ongoing concept first started, like nobody knew who they were. The 25 people were coming to see them. You know, those kinds of things. So, but like you said, the marketing aspect for them is a big thing.
Well, it's a big thing for every band.
Yeah,
right
I feel like when you don't have a front man, you have to really capitalize on that push.
Well, that's because you have.
There's no voice.
Yes, there's no one. I mean, there's. I think it's the aspect of the show that you see like drawing the most attention, because it's the one that people can understand the most.
Yeah,
because everybody, to a degree, can sing. Like they sing songs in their car.
Right. They can identify.
They can
with that.
identify. Yeah.
Then like, I see someone drumming, and I'm just, if I can not drum at all. I'm not gonna say that, but I can see myself like, oh, I know, I can kind of see what they're doing, because I've been around music or whatever. But for the normal person, it's just like, oh, it's just the sound, like it's the background. Most people just see like, oh, it's the sound, and like this is what I'm here to see is like, the singer. And because I even go like my fiance always talks about like instrumental music, and I was like, no, I feel like the song is just edging like the whole time.
Well, if you haven't listened to any of FASIC, you should. I'll send you some files.
But I love like instrumental music. I even love when like bands like release like instrumental versions of like their albums. I'm like, that's dope as well, because I just the Idola record that just came out. I listened to it, and then they released the instrumental, and I was just listening to the instrumental. I was like, bro, like the appreciation for the song just went the fuck up. I'm like, oh shit, like all this shit's going on, because yes, as a vocalist, like a lot of the attention gets put on that, depending on how stuff is written. Like sometimes
but it's also still like it's a focal point at the show.
So
there's somebody doing something, whether they're going left and right, picking up a mic, smashing a beer can, engaging with people versus
Yeah.
someone who steps forward to play a solo and then steps back.
The rest of the time, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
it's
it is definitely like a difficulty with that and trying to find your audience. It is with every band, but I feel like it is a little more difficult on the instrumental side.
Playing with a Facek has been like getting people to shows is not hard, but it's not as easy as like FC or Violent Death.
But even I think at the end of FC, it started to get hard for us too. And
I mean,
think
it was hard for everybody. Yeah,
it is always hard. In fact, there's a whole big thing where I think more bands should be honest about their draws and realize that. And bookers and promoters need to open up about their books too.
Yeah,
like how many people are actually coming to your shows? Because there's not a lot of times.
That's one of the
people
reasons why I stopped
shows.
No Hope.
Yeah,
was because I was tired. And no offense towards any band ever in the DFW or outside DFW area. I personally am just tired of bands being like, oh, yeah, man, I can bring 10 to 15 people. Hey, dude, you brought 2 people. And, like, that's cool. But you told me you'd bring 10 to 15.
Yeah.
And, like, well, I never made any money off of No Hope shows ever. Like, the only time we really made money was 420 Fest. And what we would do is we would take the money that we made and we would use it to pay for tour packages. So if bands didn't meet their minimum, it didn't matter. Everything was covered and square.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, oh, you guys are making money.
No,
actually, I lost a lot of money.
You know, a lot of people, I've realized that I've had some like comments towards us and it's like, oh, like people just saying like, oh, you should do this, and I'm like, that's expensive as hell. Like, and then like I realized like, oh, people like think like we're like banking money.
Yeah, no,
and I'm like,
yeah.
like it's like you'll have good and bad shows and like stuff like that. You have to realize like what we like to, because there's a lot of like new bands just coming up all the time, and I do understand the side of being in a band where like, oh shit, it was hard to get opportunities if you didn't know like who to talk to and stuff like that. So we have like worked with a lot of like new bands that are like, oh, maybe like they don't draw, they do draw, and then but then we know where to place them. Like sometimes we're like, this is a really good band, like they don't get the draw they deserve, like, but let's squish them in over here where they'll get in front of the right
so
audience,
we would do the same
like
kind of
like
stuff.
that.
But the issue was after 2019 when we started doing it again, there were not enough. And good bands is not the right word, but that's what the word that comes to mind.
Professional bands?
There weren't
maybe?
enough bands like The Roommates or From the Tides or Forget Conformity or Violent Death or The Devil's Good Side or bands like that that would do what they said they were going to do no matter what the outcome was. They, you know, and that's part of the thing is when you're a band, your word is what you're selling.
We had this story always comes to mind, but we were playing a show and we were opening. Actually, they had offered it up. They were opening for, I think it was a Treyu at the Rail.
Okay.
And
cool.
they were asking for people who wanted to play the show, and we were like, oh, you know, we're interested. And they hit us up. They were like, well, how many tickets do you think you could sell? And for us, I'm like, I'm never gonna overbid on anything because I'm like, I know what I can do.
Yeah, I like to go just above the minimum.
So I didn't even know what they didn't even say what a minimum was. They were just like, how many can you do? And I'm like, we were like, what's a trade? Like, I'm like, let's say we guarantee 50.
Yeah.
I go, I'm sure we can do more than that.
Yeah, that's a reasonable number.
I can guarantee you that I'm gonna do this. And they were like, oh, we know, well, you know, such and such bands are like offering this, and I'm like, well, we can go with that.
Yeah, go with them.
Yeah, we're good.
Good for
and then
you.
They ended up, you know, like a day later, they came back to us and we're like, all right, we'll put you on. We're like, okay. Yeah. And then something happened where like we were gonna open, and then there was another local, and then like the tour package. But like something happened where like the second opener was like reporting that they had like X amount of tickets sold, and then day of they didn't.
Yeah.
So this is one of those shows. You remember these?
Yeah. Day of they didn't, and literally day of they switched us. And they were so pissed.
We did that a couple times.
We did that a couple times. Like
at Secrets, we ended up as support.
Yeah.
And there was a couple of shows where that happened. Like So What's the 2 So What's we played. Like we were always talking with Orlando, and they were always like, "Oh God, thank you," because we not only did what we said, but we had all the money that we needed to have plus a bunch. And it was they were like, "Oh God, we've been dealing with BS all day," and you know, not really the big, and I just don't like working with third string because it's just certain things and certain ways that, you know, business is done.
Yeah.
But whenever it's sometimes like that, they are good business because they will, if you do
Yeah.
what you need to do when you say you're going to do it, they will treat you right. The only issue is when you don't do that, they X you out, and that's not how you should run things either. Like this as much as it is a business, this is also just mainly local music. And
but there was so much more off the local music.
yeah,
scale now.
well, at one point in time they weren't, and they are.
Yeah, like,
they
I
try to
remember-
dabble.
I think now they're kind
They're
of
little, yeah.
a little
So
out
I
and
understand
out.
the whole excommunicado thing now with them, but
Yeah.
like, you know, Afasic has played some shows for them. We opened for Psycho Stick because FC wasn't around,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
and
right,
FC
yeah.
always opened for Psycho Stick when they played. So I just hit up Orlando, and he's like, "Yeah, man." What? He's like, "You can play it," and I was like, "Sweet." So you know,
this is I think like it's just. Again, if you're in a band, like there's a level of professionalism that you
Yep.
have to
Right.
be at. Like it's like, hey, like if you are gonna do something, then do it. If you can't do it or something, like you gotta communicate and update.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like on both sides, like even like now, like as we like are booking shows and stuff like that, we're the same way. Like if everything like everybody like in our shows gets sent like. I don't even know like how far in advance, but pretty far in advance. Everybody has like their set times, what your pay scale looks like, stuff like easy stuff.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Where
we did the same thing.
and say because we've been in bands, we know like what information we need, and then we know
Yeah.
what type of information we want them to give us. That's why the same thing with like promos and things like that. We'll
Yep.
make like our own like videos like for them. It's like here you go, like you don't have to make your own shit. Like here you go, share it. You know, they try to make it everything is simple, but yeah, stuff like that. It's just like hey, if you, I really don't go on like people's words anymore on stuff. We just go like, hey, well, you'll get on, and then we'll see what you do, and then like, you know, and but we don't do.
That's
like,
what
I
we
mean,
had
we're
to
not
start
gonna
doing at the end.
Not put you on a show or anything, but like. Now it's gonna be like okay, we know where to place you, or like you know,
Right,
what we need,
yeah.
depending on what we need for the show. Because like, yeah, there's shit to pay for, like
Because
to
like
even run
there's
the
also
shows, you know?
bands like we used to work with bands because you know we had the roster, and we would like always make sure that if the bands on our roster wanted to play a show, we would help them out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just like a management label, but they didn't pay us anything. It was just we just did it because they were one of our bands. The only agreement was is they just had to play 2 shows for us a year.
And
of
they had
their
we had
choice.
to ask them. We had a whole contract, but it was a non-money binding contract at all.
Yeah, it was just
mainly
that you
for
would play
promotion.
the shows
Yeah.
and help promote, like you're talking about.
Cross
Yeah.
promotion. We had a cross promotion days where it was like, all right, everyone on the roster share this post from this band and just try to beat the algorithm. But that was the idea.
Yeah.
Was when I just wanted to get a group of people together and a group of musicians together that had the same kind of
Mindset.
push. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we found a lot of them, like the God Awful Truth was on our roster.
Yeah.
Augurus Complex. Everyday Zeros. There were so many great bands. The Roommates. We even had country
The
bands. September
Roommates is the
Moon.
greatest thing I ever found.
And is this coming out in June? By the way, will this be out in June?
This is out next Tuesday.
Yeah, so happy Pride Month, everybody! Because we, as for Conformity, that was not just a band name; it was a mindset for us too.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest
Because
things
Fuck
with
You
that,
is not a band name.
Fuck You.
Forget Conformity.
So if you're out there and you're struggling because the world wants you to conform in a certain way, but you feel different and you want to be different, be different. We're your ally. We will always be your ally, and so that's just something I kind of wanted to get out right there for everyone out there. If you need, someone to talk to, I know me and Baker are very open about that stuff, and we'll be there for you. We've done and dealt with our own issues on just everything in general. It's also men's mental health wellness, month too.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing for both of us. I know that dealing with bipolar depression really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of different things, and so I hold that in really high regard. I know that we've both struggled, but I've talked earlier, like it was a really big struggle ending something that I identified with so much with being a musician, and then
there was a lot of like emotional turmoil, like the last 6 months we did FC, like a lot of like, are we sure this is what we want to do? Do we just want to keep going and just let it fizzle out?
And
like,
what do you do after? Because I know, because he still had a FASIC, and at the time I didn't have anything. Like I wanted to start
having something helps,
and it
because it keeps your brain occupied. Just like with mental health stuff. Like if you're just sitting at home drinking a beer, you're just not that there's anything wrong with that, but if you have a depressive personality or you are a depressed person, a like myself, sitting alone at home drinking a beer is bad.
Yeah.
It is.
So like the same thing, like if you've been playing music and you have practice twice a week for however many years and you stop and you don't have anything to fill that time, it's gonna mess with you a lot. And that's one of the things that like we all had to like talk about as we were ending, because we were like, well, we're not going to see each other anymore, like we're still going to talk and we're still going to record, but like we're not going to see each other every week. We're not going to be like, hey man, how was your week? Hey man, did you have a good day? Like, how you doing today? So there's a lot of other things.
Check-ins were happening, and like when it comes to alcohol, I never felt that I was an alcoholic, but I noticed that when I started to drink, the personality shift happened a lot quicker, even when I wasn't drunk. So like I would get get lonely. That was the first thing that happened. Just getting buzzed and getting lonely sucked. And then I realized that I would get I would get really negative. And I am not a negative person, like at all. Like I got named a positive C years ago, even before I was in the band, because I'm such a positive person. And I started realizing that ending the band and not having anything else really going on and continuing to just be, sitting in my lull and drinking at the same time wasn't doing me any favors. In fact, it was pushing me down a path I wasn't really comfortable with. And again, Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. If you guys are out there struggling with alcoholism, get help, because I feel the best I've felt in years being unmedicated and not drinking. Those are the two things. Like I just smoke tons of weed. I smoke tons of weed, and I feel great, and it helped me actually be able to find the things I wanted to do. And so now I'm doing the writing, and I have a YouTube channel, and now I'm drumming for bands now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I joined a band called Panther Revival with Kennedy Rice and actually Sam from FC. So Kennedy and his buddy Colin, they had a band for the past couple of years. They're signed to a label called Punkerton out in Phoenix. And so I'll be on an album next year. I'll be going to Colorado with them in July. So I did that. I'm drumming for a smaller group, more eclectic kind of punk style thing called Chronically Myth. That's going to be more of a slow play thing, kind of work out the kinks with that. But Panther Revival's like ready to go, and it's hard too, because I go from fronting a band for 8 years, not playing drums, maybe 2 months out of that 8 years that I really, maybe 3, because I did this stuff at Everyday Zeros for a while. So I did play quite a bit, but that was in 2019. So I haven't been playing, and then all of a sudden I'm having to make up for double bass with my right hand. It's really, really hard, but I found it. I found the things I needed to do. I feel good about life, and like it's been much better leaving both No Hope and FC now that there's something like filling that void. Both those things
I still
ending at the
miss
same time sucked.
the itch to book sometimes, but it's really just to bring people together, because that was like the whole reason I did No Hope, was just so like new bands in the area could play here and play out of town, and have someone book their whole show for them.
Bands that didn't get a chance. That was
like,
another thing too.
Also, like we helped so many bands that were not from here. Like almost every single one of our shows had a band that was on tour from another state.
Wow.
The messages of, and so we still got them, like whenever No Hope would end, we still get messages. Hey, so and so told us that we should hit you up over coming through Texas. Coming through Texas, and it's like I loved it. Baker loved it. We loved helping those bands because we knew we traveled a lot as FC. We were always on the road. Like every year we had one longer tour, and then we do like 3 or 4 Texas runs or Oklahoma runs, just trying to get out and play different places and stuff like that.
We actually, that year, 2018, 2019,
played more out than
we played more shows either out of DFW or out of Texas, period, than ever before, because we were trying to like get away from playing not that there's anything wrong with playing the same venues over and over. I mean, it's what you have. But we were trying to get away from doing that. And that's one of the reasons why we were able to do a lot of the things that we were able to do, is because we would constantly push ourselves to not play at home.
Well, that's the difficulty, and that what you need to actually do is find a way to get find your actual supporters, I guess, and the running outside of your immediate area is going to do that. Because and one thing I've talked to bands a lot of this. I go, I bring up this phrase so many times. I'm like, dude, like I support like all like my friends and everybody doing anything creative, music or whatever they're doing their business. I go, but when it like with music, I go, I don't like all of their bands. I go, that's just real. You know what I mean? So. Your job as a band is to find out the people who actually fuck with your music. Who's let's talk about a basic like who's coming, like who listens to that type of music.
That's
so
an actual
Not
good
just
example.
who's coming out because like they know you or they're your friend.
Right,
Which is cool. Like it's cool to have that support, but
those
the long
people
run,
only are a small percentage of your ticket sales or draw.
Yeah.
It's the other people who are actually see you and keep coming back. Those are the people.
As a musician, it just feels better to have somebody in the crowd that's like. I fucking love this.
Yeah,
I just saw like Golden Week, is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
And I just saw them play at Trees, and just hearing them play there, and like it'd been for like a while since I listened to it, and I was like, it'll be fun to see them. Once they got to their set, I was like jumping, singing all the songs. I'm like, I fucking love this band, and I'm like, I like that. This is a band from here that like is legitimately one of my favorite bands, and they're doing it, but like. I know as a musician, seeing someone out there singing songs like that, I'm like, holy fuck, they actually this is like, that's a fan, you know what I mean? There's someone that actually really likes what we've created, you know what I mean? So it's a good feeling, but on a band, that's your responsibility to find that crowd. So touring is one of the easiest because you get in front of people, and make that immediate personal connection.
So like a Facek, when we toured the California last summer around this time, we killed it everywhere outside of Texas. Like packed out venue, people there, people buying merch. But then we come back home and like we still do well, but not like it was on tour.
Yeah.
Like we played in El Paso, which was still Texas, but it was a sold out show on a Saturday night in a venue smaller than Killers.
Whoa.
Like, that's one thing we saw
crazy.
On our trips and travels and whatnot is how similar and dissimilar scenes are. Like you go to some places and it's like, oh, this is just like DFW.
Yeah, just like back home.
And then you go to other places and you're like, this is not like DFW at all.
Yeah.
Holy crap, what is this? And then you're like some small towns can get so crazy and wild.
Yeah,
like
like
when
Pueblo.
we played in
Pueblo gets crazy, and then
the Arizona town where it was the
Yuma?
floor show. Yuma was freaking
Mavericks.
Yeah, Yuma was wild. It's little Arizona Sun Devil town, and it's like they were going wild for stuff that they had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
It was fun. Great,
so like
great
Violent
fun.
Death played. I can't remember. We went on tour to Colorado either before or after we played our last show. It was all of that was. I had so much going on at that time.
It was a little big blur.
Yeah, it was big blur. But we played in Colorado Springs at Moe's Barbecue, the big spot out there. Moe's Barbecue. It's like a well-known place out there. Sold out show. All the bands that we played with sold all of their tickets. Wow. So like Violent Death played to a sold out place, and we opened and it was packed, and it was just like
I saw the video. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was just nuts. Like Cody and Rodney looked back at me and they were like, there was a lot of people, Jonathan. I was like, yes.
A lot of people, like just thinking of some of the opening like shows at like arenas and stuff like that, where we've had some pretty good crowds. Where it's like you look at the tally and it's like, oh, there was 175 people here or something like that. Wow,
yeah.
hell. But I've never seen an opening act crowd. When I saw that video, I was like, there's gotta be 150 people.
Yeah,
in
I want to
that
say
room,
the only
like,
time
for the
that
opening band at
we
all
would have
local
seen that in
shows.
FC is when we were the only band to play the Mushroom Head tour.
Yes, yeah, the Mushroom Head show. There was about that.
There was the Rail Club was already pretty much filled by the time we started, and we were the only local. So it was us and then the package, or actually the dudes from Colorado, Sky Burial.
I think that's the name.
Yeah,
that might be the name.
But they were on the they were a part of the tour package for however many days, and that was their first stop with them.
Yeah.
So it was us and then them, and they were local, but they were local to Colorado. And it was nuts. That's the first time I think FC, besides So What, the So What's we played, because we played one without you that was in Deep Ellum before you joined.
No, I was at that one.
You played that one?
Yeah, I played that one because the Contortionist played.
Yeah.
That
We
was
all
my
ran
first-
over to go watch. We're like, okay, we gotta go back.
It was right before our set, and someone was like, "You got to come check out this band." I was like, "All right." We kind of lolly over, and I'm like, "Oh God, I don't want to leave this." They were so good. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. So what's were fun. Those were really, really a good time. We met and just got to hang out with so many different types of people.
Yeah.
And
The
just,
first one we drank too much because there's a free bar.
yes, it was.
It was
we
it was
drank
the
way
last
too much.
one at Air Hog Stadium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and 2017, and all the bands from local to national, region, whatever, got to go to the same bar and drink for free until the well of everything was gone, and then it was like $4 for top shelf or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
I got to tell Jordan Buckley from Every Time I Die where the free drinks were.
There's a photo somewhere of me and the dudes in the ongoing concept sitting on some bleachers. Just you can tell that we're just plastered.
Man, yeah, like drinking at shows, I tried never to do it for the most part. I tried, but I remember once we were playing. I think they only did one of these, but it was called the Who Dang Festival in Austin, and it was like I think Memphis Mayfire was headlining.
Oh,
like
nice.
the Browning. I can't remember. Like, 2x4 was there and shit. It was really cool. But I remember we were like, I mean, maybe the second or third band, you know, it's hot as shit, and it landed on my birthday, and then on stage, I think DJ was like. He's like, oh, by the way, like when we were ending our set, like, by the way, it's his birthday, so if you want to get him a beer, like you can. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. No one's gonna say. And then I get off stage and someone I wasn't even off stage yet. Someone brings me up to the stage. I'm like, oh, nice, I get a beer. And then like I was up at the bar trying to buy something, and all day just people were coming by and like,
hey man,
shots.
that's awesome.
But I was so hammered.
Besides it being hammered, it's awesome. You know,
the thing, I remember because like the way there was like a stage, I think. Empire State Garage or some shit.
Oh, yeah.
So they had a stage and there was like these pillars kind of, I guess. By the time Memphis played up, I was gone. Like, so I was like leaning against the pillar in the corner like this. I was like, there's Memphis. Damn, they're done. Damn, they're done. I know that I was like, I blinked and they're done. So I'm like, I know that they must have looked out and just seen me pass the fuck out. Their whole set.
That's
I'm like, I really
hilarious.
hope they didn't fuck up their day. I was like, damn, this dude's sleeping through the entire set.
it's like our stuff's not banging anymore.
That was the last. So what? I didn't make it. The only reason I wanted to play that was to see Under Oath. That was the only reason I wanted to play the other one was because Norma Jean, and the reason I wanted to play this one was because Under Oath. I was like, yes, okay, I can finally see Under Oath.
I mean, we got to headline the last one we played.
Yeah, well, technically we didn't because What's Her Face actually was behind us.
That's because they messed up times or whatever.
Yeah. But I go and Alexis on Fire is on, and they're banging, and I'm just like, it's too hot. I am too drunk. I'm not seeing Under Oath, and I did not make. I have one band left. There was one band I could have just maybe. I was backstage and stuff like that too. I could have just maybe huddled up somewhere and found a corner just like you and maybe slept through the set. But I couldn't even make it. Couldn't even make it. But yeah, those were really, really, really good times. But drinking at shows, I'm actually trying to think on how that's going to work for me now because. We're about to play at Three Links, Panther Revival on June 27th.
It's so hot.
I have not been to a show.
Is that the Deep End and Treehouse, right?
Yeah, that'll be my debut show for them, and so I haven't really had the urge to drink, I think they say it's like 21 days to break a habit, right? So like my first 21 days were like the easiest thing in the world. I didn't oh my God, man, I gotta really fight to not drink. Yeah. But I haven't really put myself in a position to be around it.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, I'm so used to performing after drinking or in that environment and drinking.
Yeah, well, part of the problem is we were sponsored by Colocock. So
yeah, we had a lot, especially at the very beginning. We had a lot of access to drinks,
free alcohol, and we did promos for them, and we would throw massive parties and take photos and send them to them, and that was
a part of the thing, and it sucks. Think about it now. We didn't have to. We didn't have to. It was fun for a while, but what we got out of it, especially towards the end of that promotional thing, wasn't worth
towards the
idea
end, they started to drop the ball, but
Yeah.
that's because they were having their own issues. But there was that one time we got that massive package from them for tour, and we got
That was right as I joined.
we got shirts and koozies, and they were like, "You guys can give it away, you can sell it, it's yours to do whatever you want with." And it was like a massive care
that
package.
helped us break even as a band, because I
Yeah.
think if I was telling someone else about this the other day, where they're like, "How are your finances as a band?" Being in it for 10 years, and I was like, I think technically we broke even.
Yeah.
If you go from what band made to what band spent, not counting personal put in.
Yeah, like not including rent for the studio, but
Yeah.
like anytime we traveled,
Band paid for
the
that.
band paid for it. Like
Yeah.
all those massive tours where we
Yeah.
rented those nice vans, we paid for that with band fund.
That's fucking
So like when bands are like, well, we don't make any money, and I'm like, we didn't have that problem. And same thing with Violent Death.
What are you
Violent
spending your
Death
money on,
makes
actually?
we make money
Yeah.
as a band. We make money on our tickets or door, and then we also make a significant amount of money from our merch. And that's what I tell a lot of new bands. It's like if you want to go play
Yes.
big festivals, you want to go on the road, even if it's just to go to Austin
Yeah.
for 3 hours and play a show and come back. If you don't take merch or you don't have merch, you're literally like cutting your leg off.
Yeah.
Yeah, merch is like
because
I
everybody will walk up and buy a koozie or a sticker or like that's just it happens. That's just how it is.
That's I mean after I've bought a lot of shit like from a lot of bands that I've seen just because like I was pumped. I'm like, they're fucking good. What do they have on the table? Like, sure,
Yeah.
let me pick something up.
Yeah.
Just because I'm pumped to see them. But yeah, if you don't have merch, like where like and you're counting on like whatever, like when you travel, normally maybe you get like a small guarantee, whatever they can get you depending on what kind of band you are.
that doesn't really happen anymore.
Exactly,
Guarantees
yeah.
are really only for bands that are signed or a part of like a big like management company like Artery Global Management. Like doesn't really happen. Guarantees aren't a thing anymore, and a lot of people don't understand that.
I think it depends on the scene.
It
depends on the
I think
scene.
it definitely depends on the scene.
Because country, that's all they really work for, guarantees.
I mean, I'm talking metal.
Yeah.
Like,
If you're
metal, even here in Texas, it's hard. Outside of Texas, I can get guarantees. Like I can get a guarantee in El Paso. I can get guarantees in California. I can get guarantees in Arizona. I can get guarantees in Louisiana. But Texas, people are like, oh, we'll just, do a door split, and which is fine. But a lot of people are like, well, why are we doing a door split? Well, you don't have any fans out here. So maybe tour where your fans are.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about Spotify, even though we all hate it. It tracks your numbers.
Yeah.
And a promoter can use a third-party system to track your numbers.
to see what their audience
And to
is
see
here.
what
Yeah.
the audience is. And sometimes I feel like bands don't use that to their advantage. We did all the time. That's why we picked all the spots when we would tour. We would pick based off our listens and views, whether it was, okay, we have this many Facebook friends or fans that live in central to this area. How many of those people do we think are listening out of these 50 people who are listening in the Houston area? And that's how we would route our tours. And it was quite useful versus just blind shooting in the barrel. Like, we're going to go here and then go here and then go here.
Yeah.
It's like people don't understand that it's not just fun. If you want to make money, you got to be a business. You have to have that mindset. And that's one of the reasons why FC was able to do 10 years is because we had that mindset that while this is fun and we're having a great time and we love to party and we like making music and sharing it with people, but if we're always paying for our tours, we're not going to go on tour. Like just the van rental alone every time we went on tour was $1,000 or more.
And it never got to the point to where it got unfun. That was the other thing about the band. It's like only a couple of times, like in 10 years, can I remember thinking, oh, God, I don't want to be in this band.
And it was typically like people that aren't in the band anymore.
Yeah, and that hadn't been in the band since like 2017.
Yeah.
Like those people would be just like, oh, I don't want to do this with them anymore. But then as soon as the lineup started to solidify, especially once we got Sam in, like things really, really just started to change, and just the way we communicated with each other in general. He was such a great calming presence within the band.
Yeah.
And that's why he became like just this foundation piece of like just us three. Like we always said if Forget Conformity could like limp on before we got Zach in the band and Nate came back, if it would be me, Baker, and Sam just trying to get people in and whatnot.
Yeah.
That core would never leave. And then so I think I would like to think it expanded now to Nate too. I don't think if we were coming back, we wouldn't come back without Nate ever.
Yeah, so, definitely. Nate is a different. The Nate that left, that went on tour and came back, is a different Nate.
Different human.
Nate.
Such a great, like the growth in watching somebody grow like that. So impressive, because we had a guy who was about the same age. In that time span of growth, didn't have any growth. In fact, regressed. But Nate came in kind of immature and not really like clicking the way we thought. And
I mean, not really immature, just not like us.
Yeah,
We're just all older.
I think he would even say a little immature.
Maybe.
I think because he was 7 years younger than us. You know what I mean? And so, but then he comes back and has such a clear-eyed view. I think also quitting drinking. He's he's a sober person too, and so I think that helps you just think better if you aren't thinking good when you're drinking. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Like you can drink. Like don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying everyone don't drink. I'm saying if you realize you're not doing or thinking right while you're drinking, and you can find things in yourself that says it, and other people may say it to you. Those are the times to start thinking about changing that view.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink.
He did.
I didn't drink at shows until after we played for a long time, just because it would just be so hot, and it would just be a lot to like play all that stuff that I play, which is crazy to think, because now in Violent Death I play things 10 times more complicated than the things in FC and a FASIC. But like I wouldn't drink until after I played, because it's just one of those things. Like I don't want to be sluggish. I don't want to be not paying attention to the time because I'm getting a beer or something. Like, and that's sometimes I feel like people in bands play shows, and there's nothing wrong with this because I've been there and done that. But it's social drinking, and sometimes for me, I would lose where I should stop, especially at Killers. I would just like keep drinking because Jeff or Joey would be like, "You want another beer, Jonathan?" Yes, I do.
That's why I didn't like playing last. I hated playing last. I hate it. And what sucks, like as bookers, when we would help out bands and be like, "Okay, we're gonna put on a show," and we would gather bands that maybe none of them would maybe headline, or they possibly could, and we'd ask them like, "Hey, could you headline the show?"
Yeah,
they'd be like, "No, we didn't want to headline." So we headline, or even just play last, because sometimes I'm like, "No, we didn't headline the show. We played last. I didn't even want to do this." Because of necessity a lot, and it's like crap drinking out that whole show. By the time you get up there,
that's also
it's
like one of my pet peeves. Is like one of the reasons I also didn't want to do it anymore is because people would be like, "Well, FC always headlines. Do you want to headline?"
Yeah, we would ask all the time.
Gladly headline.
We never wanted to. Anytime an outside promoter would hit either one of us up, we'd be like, "Cool, we played a show. Can we not headline?"
Yeah, Torch booked us a lot our last couple of years, and my whole thing was like, "Torch, we just don't want to play last. I will play whatever you want, even first."
Yeah.
He's like, "You guys are not playing first," and it's like, can we not play last?
Well, yeah, I've seen that shift, at least from when I started playing in
Nobody stays past 12:30.
No.
Yeah.
Like, no matter the band.
Used to seeing those shows go on.
No, we remember before COVID, we would be partying at Killers till 2 a.m.
Yeah, but now like everybody's literally trying to be out by like 11
and I mean,
at the latest.
I get it. I totally
too.
understand. Like because of everything that happened and all the venues that are gone or shut down, everybody like changed their social life, which that's great.
Fair. That's evolution.
But because of it, there's so many people that changed it that now it affects late shows, and sometimes people want shows to go till 1 or 2, and I'm just honest with them, and I'm like,
it's not for you.
No one will be here.
That's not work,
like you want me to tell this band that they have to play at midnight. Playing at midnight is kind of okay, but playing at 12:30 is not okay anymore.
I don't think there should be metalcore after midnight.
No, I'm definitely on board with that. Like I've just seen it. I've seen that shift completely, and I'm like, dude, it's hard to keep anyone past here. Like, a certain amount of time. So I'm like, okay, so we're just like, I'm not gonna even try to do that. So we like try to keep everything as concise and like early, like as we possibly can, while it's still like a decent like night out. Because also like because of after COVID, a lot of the shit that you could do after shows like is not available.
Right,
Like
yeah.
there was like a lot of like restaurants and shit.
Yeah,
that you
they're
could go,
not
like,
open
ain't
anymore.
nothing's open anymore. It's just very like subtle.
So
like,
and it's also the money thing. I talk about this with other people in bands. You know, like people. Nothing against Deep Ellum, but it's one of those things. If you book a show in Deep Ellum and you're from Fort Worth, unless like, and it exists, but FC, we had a Dallas-based fan base and a Fort Worth-based fan base, so we would invite them accordingly. But unless you have a solid Dallas fan base, all of your people from Fort Worth who come are now paying for parking. They're paying for a ticket, and so we're talking, 15, 25, maybe $30. They're probably going to want to eat. They're definitely going to have a few beers. Well, then there's no money for merch. And that's one of the reasons why we stopped booking shows out there, and we don't even in Violent Death and Aphasic, we don't even really play in Dallas. And it's just, it's nothing against Deep Ellum. It's just I want the people to come to also spend money at the venue, at the bar, on the other bands,
and even just make it out there. Because sometimes I think, like, damn, like. Yes, the ticket is whatever, like price, like so. The ticket's not bad, but you think about everything else that entails, like, oh, it's going to be
like let's say you don't have gas, so you got to throw $10 in your tank, and it's $10 for a ticket.
How much is 15?
And it's probably 15 for parking.
Yeah.
You're already at $25, and you're
I paid 20 for parking the other night.
Yeah, and so it's like you're just in the door, and you've already spent this much money. And as promoters, we always stop to think about that because at the end of the day, we really wanted the bands to make the money.
Yeah,
Same thing with you guys, like. While it's important that as promoters you cover your cost as much as you can, but it's also super important that everybody that played the show made some money, whether it's from their merch because they didn't bring enough people or a combination of both, you know?
And shit just getting expensive at some of like the venues that that I've been to. I'm just like, dude, you buy a drink or whatever and you're spending a shit ton of money. Like,
well, luckily Haltom is cheap like Tomcats was.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like
keeping the spirit alive.
And so, and then I haven't been to the Rail since they reopened. But
have they even started throwing shows? They haven't started throwing shows yet.
Show coming up.
I think it's the birthday 4-day fest or whatever, because Pallone's birthday is on July 4th. I just remember that because it's the day after mine.
Our history of the Chris Pallone.
Yeah.
Do you know our history of Chris Pallone?
I don't think so.
So
we used to work at the Ridgely.
Yeah, we actually booked at when the Ridgely opened back up for local stuff, and Chris and Stand for Something was running that. We were booking the room and the lounge, having to book 6 artists on a Saturday, 6 artists on a Friday. Every weekend for we did it for 5 months.
It was 10 to 11 bands or artists every night.
It was so brutal.
Friday and Saturday, so 20 to 22 bands or artists every week. Every weekend. So like, and that's why we got so good at communication with people and.
I think that's how probably I know you, because I mean, just being in music and whatnot, I met people, whatever. But it went into overdrive when he brought me in to help work at the Ridgely with Chris. I was like, oh, okay, well, I got to message everybody. So I think I threw out, oh, they're in a band, boom, friend request, boom, friend request, boom, boom, boom.
We really tried really hard to get like a jazz thing going on.
And comedy,
I tried so hard, but it's just.
I had a comedy
thing
never
worked.
For a bit and actually got. The headliner of one of the shows dropped my show because Hyenas in Fort Worth told him to, because they didn't want any other comedy clubs. And so like I was already getting heat from other comedy club promoters. I'm like, I'm just trying to freaking film this thing.
It was fun though, because like my father-in-law is the architect that redesigned all of the Ridgely to its original like historic design. So when I got to work there, that was really cool, because then I got to like experience and see all the work that he had done before I even knew him and my wife. So that was really cool, and like that's why I enjoyed doing it. Also, I got to meet people that I would have never met just because I was attached to Pallone.
Yeah, and shout out to a few different promoters too, actually. So I guess we'll do that kind of.
I mean, Torch. I love
Torch. Even though the history of Pallone's a little funky between all of us, at different points in time. Just shit happens, business happens. He was really good to us. I think one of the biggest promoters that everyone misses and people forget about it because also the thing with Pallone is Kevin Dunlap.
Oh yeah.
I think that, and I think personally, it hurt us as a band huge because he was a big supporter of
Dunlap
FC.
is one of the reasons why FC got to do so many tours
Big
at the
shows,
beginning.
yeah,
'Cause, like
and-
he used to do this thing where it was, hey, if you guys will play this show and take a smaller cut, I will book this tour package that's coming through, and you can go play the next 2 days with them, and then you'll get a payout for those. And most of the time we would do it. We would be like, yeah, man, we'll take a smaller cut to go on the road.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like a lot of bands just think that they're entitled to something.
We had, I mean, with full transparency, like we had a lot like stuff happen with Kevin Dunlap that just left an entirely bad taste. in
Yeah.
my
Oh,
mouth.
really?
So,
You see,
yeah.
but that's
But
not.
see, that's
what
and
every
that's
promoter. I think.
it's
That's what-
different.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep. I
like
was just
like Rustin. Rustin loved us.
Yeah.
Like FC probably wouldn't have gotten to do as much as it did in the beginning if it wasn't for Rustin and Tomcats. And then Justin, when Justin took over Tomcats,
Oh man, I miss
Justin helped
Mills.
helped us with not even just as a band, but like
Just
No
people,
Hope
yeah.
Yeah.
as in general. Like we were able to throw shows there and do Sweats for Vets there, and then cost an arm and a leg to throw a show there.
Yeah.
You know, those people that aren't really a part of the scene anymore really were like detrimental to the scene, and I don't think people realize that. You know,
I didn't get the grasp of it because I was very new to the scene, but DJ wasn't, and I've heard a lot of like the Rustin lore through, and even like my interactions with him when we had him was like, dude, this is just like loves music, loves
Yeah.
this shit, like
Yeah.
it's someone who had like the passion for it. And I'm just
that's
like, dude,
kind of
this-
why I started No Hope.
Yeah.
Was when all that happened with him, I wanted bands to be able to play any show they wanted in a setting that would have been Rustin throwing a show at Tomcats. And Rustin kept the first 8 or 10 people, depending on the show, and that it was as simple as that.
Yeah.
Everything after that was yours.
yeah.
Like, and that's how I pretty much did it. And then when we started booking at Killers, we lowered the minimum to 5, because then it's like just sell 5 tickets. So
Yeah,
if
we
you
don't
sell-
have to pay for anything.
It's
Why
like
are
if
we
you
gonna
sell
have-
50
yeah.
tickets at $5 a pop, I only need $25 from you, and the rest is all yours.
All
and if you
yours,
want more
buddy.
tickets, I'll send you more. You know.
Yeah.
And like Rustin's one of the whole reasons that I did what I did and why I did it for so long, because I was trying to like keep that I don't know,
Energy,
like
that space.
legacy.
I feel like I bring it up so much, but Tomcats was just so like it was like another like dimension for bands.
Oh,
like, you
yes.
walked in there and you sounded amazing. Like I will talk James's praises like till the day I die. Like
Yep.
the sound guy for Tomcats just made anybody sound good. I remember we played our first show ever was a battle of the bands, and he learned our set to the next time we played. The very next time, like he was adding reverb to certain like
Yeah.
vocal parts and stuff. Like immediately, he's like, "Oh yeah, I just remember from the last
Yep.
time you played." I'm like, "We played here once."
You know, he's
And,
really
like,
good. We're
no,
like,
and he was the calmest. I was the type like early on, I would panic every fucking time something wasn't going right. He'd come up, it's like, "What's going on?" It's like, "Oh wait, like this isn't working." He's like, "Cool," like he'll fix it like right away.
he is so good, yeah.
Yeah,
And
so
the
that-
load in and load out at that place,
Always easy.
it's
yeah.
always so
Easy.
easy. Like that.
We miss places like that.
Yeah.
Places like that are, you know, I stopped booking when some of these other, like Tulips. I haven't actually even been out to Tulips and stuff like that. So like these other little places that are coming around and people are booking at,
Yeah.
I just haven't been to them, so I don't know what the vibe is. I don't know what it's.
I like the vibe at Tulips as far as like going to a show and stuff like that. It's pretty tight. Like
Okay,
it's
yeah.
got like a hangout vibe enough. Like that's what I liked about Tomcats is that you could see a show, but you could just hang out with
Yeah.
like your
Yeah.
friends like at Tomcats.
That's
And
what I
would
liked
have-
about Killers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Growl. Like
Growl, yeah.
like same kind of vibe. You can go catch a show and then you can go out back and grab a beer in between sets,
Yeah,
and then
sure.
go back and watch
then
the
they
next
have that,
band.
Like, middle patio. I think they
Yeah.
opened up like another little room that's got like dark.
Yeah,
and
I
shit
haven't
in
been
it.
there in a
Like,
while
really-
now.
But yeah, like the my biggest thing when it comes to like shows and things like that, what I like is what I remember. It's the hangout shit. Like, and it was something eye opening during COVID. Is like I didn't realize how much I didn't have to plan to hang out with my friends because we were all seeing
Yeah.
each other at shows.
Right, yeah.
So I never had
I
to be like,
remember
let's
that,
hang out
yeah.
here because I'm like, if I play a show, go to a show, anything, like I'm seeing them. I don't have to do anything
Yeah.
extra. That went away, and it's like, fuck, I don't see anybody like, you know, at all. Even like after like, you know, you could like not whatever the quarantine shit was gone up a little bit, you could still like do stuff. I'm like, dude, it was gone for like a while where I'm like, people didn't, it was kind of hard to reacclimate that. That's why, you know, DJ decided to do Chill Sounds 2, the second one we did.
Yeah.
And that was like a free event. He like everything was out of pocket, like nothing, like it was free. You wanted to come, and it created that space. And after that is when we made NoiseROT together. Like, because I'm like, that's like we need to like be a part of like trying to create these moments for people again. Like, because this was fun. Like to see just people hanging out again, and having fun.
That's the whole reason that I did it, was to create those moments, to bring people together, to experience things with other people who enjoy the music. You know, and I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people just think promoters have a bad name, but I mean, everybody that I know does exactly the same thing. Even Zemer. I've known Orlando and Zemer since we were like teenagers. And you know, Zemer's one of the reasons why so many bands come here. Like, it's nobody else. It's him. You know, like, he has the connections because he's worked his ass off to get there.
He's been doing it for a long ass time.
And like, you know, people always want to like give promoters a bad rep, but at the end of the day, promoters are just creating an experience. And you can go to whichever experience you like, and if you don't like someone, then don't go to their experience, but you don't have to talk shit about them.
And that's why I think I think that everybody has their own experiences with promoters. Like, there are people who, like Eric from Brave Days, will say, I'm his favorite promoter, right? But I guarantee there's somebody that he knows that will say, fuck Chris. Fuck that guy. He da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He thinks he's da-da-da-da or whatever, right? So it just kind of depends on your interactions with people and your business. Sometimes, like, you know, business really can mess things up. Like, me and Palome probably, like, if there was a situation where we're on tour in Austin, I think, when we get the call, where a show happened at the Ridgely that I had booked, but we were gone. This is before Sam was in the band too, because Sam was running door. And it was a nice little Christian group too, like brought like 50, 60 people, something like that. Like, good little crowd for the room. And they didn't get any payout. And they accused Chris of like funny business, and never really got the full story of what went down. But it's like dealing with that and on the road and not knowing what's going on, and like gave me a sour thought of that guy. But then getting back in the room with him and talking to him and whatnot, you go, okay, well, I don't know exactly what went down, but I'm seeing you talk to me like a human being right now. Let's move past this. And I think a lot of times with promoters and whatnot, that's the key. Like, you have this initial bad interaction with somebody, or like business went wrong and stuff like that, and then we never really get a chance to sit down and talk to each other. That's never really happens.
I think mine, like I said, when you brought up Kevin, it's just like, it's because that was the end of it, you know. Because we started off like, you know, he was very like, he liked our band and stuff like that. We had good interactions, and then like just thing after thing just kept going back. Like, personally, it wasn't, and this was like, and that's how I take it. Like, it wasn't something that I heard. It wasn't something that someone was saying like, well, they did this to me. It was something that we actually
literally did.
So like, okay, this is like, you know, happening to, you know, to us. So I'm like. And that's what my image is like now, because in the ways that we've talked to him, like, that's the way you ended it, you know what I mean? So like, so that's who you were at the end of like our relationship. So
we almost at one point ended our relationship with Third String, but we didn't, and I'm, you know, glad we didn't, because like, they're yet again, you know, like, so what, and lots of big things like that. As long as you do what you say you do, they'll work with you. But there was this one time we helped pretty much build a whole show.
With the ongoing concept,
with the ongoing concept in Adola, and
Save Us from the Archon was on that show
Save Us from the Archon, and we got gypped at the end of the show with our payout, and it was one of those things where like, it was like, okay, it's like, that's not at all what we all talked about, but it's like, I'm not really interested in arguing with you at this point. So
we helped bring the other local onto the show with us after Atlanta messaged me like, hey, do you know any locals who can play with you guys? And I'm like, okay, am I booking your show? Like, all right, well, I get cool, yeah.
But it was fun because it was at the Dirty 30.
Yeah,
like, it was one of the last shows there, I think.
Man, I miss
that
place
venue.
Too,
yes,
because it was. I mean, the shitty part is like, when it was cold as shit. When
it was hot at this show.
But those fucking, what do they call it? Like tunnel shotgun. I fucking love like those. We played. Shit, what did we play? Oh, it was the Color Morale, Dayseeker, Block Picturesque. We opened that one, and that place was fucking full and sweaty. I'm like, yes, that's what I fucking
like. Wasn't I Welcome Judgment there?
Not that night, but they did play. I remember seeing their farewell show there, and that shit was fucking crazy.
Yeah,
I
was there at that show. I got knocked out at that show.
Nice.
That was really fun. I was filming. I was filming the last Alderan Judgment set, and then I forgot what band was on after them because they didn't headline. But I got like just side hit like by a spinning fist in the jaw, and I woke up like further outside than I remember being. So I don't know who hit me, but someone out there, if you guys remember that,
that's funny.
You got me good. You got me good on that one.
Yeah, but like the relationship and memories, like I said, with promoter, and that's one thing. Like with us, I'm like, I don't care like what you think about like other promoters and stuff like that, because it's based on your interactions with them. So I'm like, all I can focus on is like, how do I like run business, and how do I interact with you? Like, what can I do like the best if we're gonna fuck up, you know what I mean? So like something is wrong, if something like abandoned like this, and we can improve something, then you work on it.
I think it's that concept where people are like, oh well, you're my friend. Right, I am your friend, but this is my business. Yeah. And like while I'm your friend, I'm typically you're already cutting people slack. Yeah. And then it's like I can't cut you any more slack, and you feel like I'm being hostile with you, but it's like technically, dude, you're being hostile with me, you know, like
that's why.
So it's a different like
it's really hard being in a band and being a promoter at the same time.
I don't know, for me it was great because I could understand both sides.
Yeah, I hated it because it made me start hating bands.
Well,
like, I started not liking bands. I started not liking dealing with them so much. I was like, ugh.
But I don't see it as a problem because if there's a band that you don't like working with, some people feel like it's always the promoter. Well, maybe it is the band. You know, as a promoter, you don't have to work with anybody. You could just work with the same people that all the time if you wanted to. You know, like, and I feel like people forget that like promoters are truly giving you an opportunity, and what you do with the opportunity is up to you. It's not their fault if you fall short.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of tight because like as part of like a promoter group and stuff like that, like we put bands on like we like, and we give a lot of people chances and stuff like that. Where I'm like, dude, like what I want, like when you get booked through this, is like there's someone here like in your corner for this. Like we want you to fucking like do well. Like
totally,
because we worked on like some concepts last year that didn't pan out, but. Because they were like these really cool lineups, but like we weren't. It's because they were giving us the post on Mondays, and it was just hard to bring people out on Mondays at the time. Blah blah blah.
Yeah, but it's always been hard to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
There was a lot of like things that we were going or whatever. But the lineups were great, and then like I remember like after like a few of them, I'm like, you know what fucking sucks the most is that this lineup is fire as fuck, and this like they deserve to be playing like in front of a shit ton of people. So like taking that and be like, okay, we got to work on that because that's what we need to aim for. Like how do we get these, you know, the right crowd?
Right, like, and then the learning curve to that is some bands that you work with all the time always consecutively draw, and then when you start putting them on those shows, the other bands are like, well, why can't I play it? And you don't want to be like, well, because you only ever bring 8 people or 5 people, you know, like the touring band, just as I've always used this concept when people get whatever. It's like, look, man, if I put you on a package and put you on the road, do you want to play in front of the band that brings 8 people, or do you want to play in front of the band that brings 30 people? And like that usually was the end all of the conversation, because when you put it in those terms, people are like, well, shit, of course I want to play in front of the band that brings 30 people because I'm not from here. So even if 5 people like me, I sold 5 things off my merch table. You know, it's a numbers game. And I think a lot of people don't realize that it is a numbers game when you're a promoter, especially when you're not doing a local show. Like it's local with a national or locals with touring bands. It's definitely a numbers game. Like when it's just locals, the numbers are important because you want all your locals to make their money, but it's also not as detrimental if like you do put 6 local bands on a bill and 80 people come versus a tour package and 4 locals and 50 people come. Yeah.
There's a lot of numbers and stuff like that you start learning about, but it's cool. Like I think having the experience of like being like being with y'all too, like kind of similar, where like y'all are in a, you know, we're in a band and in bands together, like and still booking like, at the same time. So you get to balance out. Okay, I know what's important over here, but I also know what's important.
It was
over here.
also one of those things. It was like we noticed that everything we were playing at one point in time was like, oh, you get $2, you get $3, you get $4. You only get this much if you sell this many. And that was one of the things why I started No Hope, because I wanted to bring back that Tomcats feel where no one has to sell tickets. No one has to bring people.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't sell tickets or don't bring people, then you can't be upset when you don't get asked to come back.
Yeah.
You know, or
you don't play in front of people. That's another thing too. It's like there's also sometimes I think like people see what maybe the scene used to be when they were growing up, or they see the way like big shows are and stuff like that, and they see social media posts that are very targeted and only showing maybe a small portion of one show that makes it look like every show.
Trick photography.
Yeah, that stuff. And then you go and perform, and there's like 15 people watching you, and you get jaded by that. And it's like, well, no, but that's it. Like, that is a part of it.
Yeah.
Like, playing in front of 15 people is a part of it. Playing in front of 150 people is a part of it. You got to do all.
You should play your heart out in front of just the sound guy, just as much as if there was 100 people in front of you.
Yeah, I should never be able to look at somebody and be able to go, oh, there's no one in that crowd, just by watching them on stage and not seeing the crowd.
Yeah.
But you can sometimes. You can see it. You can just see it and go, oh, they're not really, there's no one watching them because they're not giving it all. But then there's some bands you watch and you're like, there could be nobody there. They are just freaking pulling. I'll say this. What's their faces from?
Hold on, keep talking.
Oh yeah, from Austin.
Narwolf.
Narwolf. Crazy guys, right? But they would absolutely play as balls out to the wall.
Same thing with
no matter
same
who
thing
was
with
there.
the God Awful Truth.
Yes,
they toured with us to California.
That was great.
And like we would play shows in front of a bunch of people, and we play shows in front of nobody, and they still do all the crazy
same
kicks
things,
and
yeah.
spins and all that.
I miss them.
You
Love
know,
those guys.
they're still playing.
Yeah, I know.
But they pretty much only play.
anymore.
They pretty much only play in Wichita
Falls yeah.
now.
They sometimes are around here too. But shout out to Wichita Falls scene for getting up.
Is it
Gary Walden.
Yeah, Gary's doing some good stuff out there.
What's God? I booked them too. I really like that band.
Ladybird.
Yeah.
Fucking sick.
So their
I love
frontman is like doing lots of stuff at a place called the Deep End up there. Yeah, and so they're constantly doing shows. So I think Wichita Falls scene is kind of gathering some steam, which is good.
Like things that we used to do as promoters.
Yeah.
Because like all I do now is I book tours for just the people that I play with, and I occasionally help other people who want it. But like this would be a thing that we would do. So Gary out there in the Deep End, maybe y'all should reach out to him, and you guys could do tours together. Like one of their bands could come here and play, and then one of y'all's bands could go and play back home with the other band.
Yeah.
And then it's like really easy to put bands on the road, and it doesn't really take a lot because you've got the other promoter out there, and you're in each other's you're in each other's corner. So it's kind of like that's a lot of the reasons why we toured so much, is because I knew so many people that are not from here.
Yeah.
And they were just like, oh yeah, man, just help me get this band here. Yeah, dude, no problem. You know, like our first run to California, we paid someone to help us book.
That's right, yeah.
And he could only book half of it, and because some stuff happened, and he refunded us half of our money, and Chris and I booked the other half.
Oh shit.
So you know, sometimes it's just about who you know, and that's just as important as being a musician as it is as being a promoter.
Yeah. No, it's 100% that. And luckily, like we're all pretty good at that. I'll say like the booking, I've definitely like I am the back end on that. It's DJ that's like his thing, and he like can see it that way. Like I've like when we made NoiseROT, my thing was like I want to do like I love like music, and I wanted to do like the entertainment side of it. And
right.
That's what I like.
So that's how we are. We had to. Luckily, if it wasn't for my wife, No Hope would have never made any money because I'd have just given it all away. But she eventually was like, and it wasn't just Brenna, it was Bailey.
Yeah.
They were
that's right.
They were both like,
people
Jonathan,
come through No Hope.
You have to take some money back at the end of the show, so you don't have to buy this tour package. You know, you can just pay for it, and if you get the money back, cool. But if you don't, it's a wash.
Yeah.
Versus, there's a couple times where I had to pay out of pocket for a tour package.
Yeah.
Like several times where I would show up with the money and I would just go ahead and pay the package. I remember the first time we booked Insurgents. I paid
miss them too.
Paid Rafe straight out the back, and he's like, "You don't have to give me that till the end." No, man, just take it. Just go ahead and take it. Like, it's good.
No, a lot of those. We've had some bands like be super surprised, like on tour packages, when we like pay them, like, it's like, hey, do you mind if we just settle up? Like,
it's just
now?
easier.
They're like what? Like now? Like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, also a lot of
you
those
can,
bands
you know?
are used to merch cuts.
Yeah.
And none of us do that.
Uh-huh.
I've had big bands be like, okay, well, so what's the merch cut? I mean, if you want to give me a shirt, that's cool, but I don't need anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of concepts that I didn't know like were things. Merch cuts I'd never experienced merch cuts.
We had to deal with
and,
merch cuts one time on the road, but it wasn't enough for them to. We didn't hit their threshold. So
Oh,
it worked
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
We were in California. We
yeah.
didn't hit their threshold, so it was fine.
But that and like I know that the hip hop scene is real big on like the actual pay to play like slot.
Oh yeah, the buy-in slot. Yeah, you got to buy in your 15 minutes.
Because I remember the pay to play like when I remember it's like it's just you needed to sell a certain amount of tickets.
And I know, and I hate that word pay to play. It's not. There's no such thing as pay to play. If someone gives you tickets, to me a ticket in hand is more beneficial than relying on my friend to show up.
Yeah.
Because I could just go ahead and sell you the ticket, and then I can go to the bar and sell 5 more tickets just because I decided to have a beer with these people.
This is random, but like the price to like get tickets printed.
That's don't print your own.
So stupid.
Yeah,
I'm like,
your own.
I was like, this makes no fucking sense.
So get a printer.
But I miss like. I think, and we've been talking it over, but like I think the idea of having like a stack full of tickets and you being able to physically, hey, buy this.
Yeah, no,
and
it's
sell it,
just,
I'm like, it's the digital aspect of it is like it's too much of a maybe. I go, you can get people. I go, you can sell, and it I think for me like it inspires the hustle mentality of like, fuck, like I can sell these. You know what I mean? Because like when we did Chill Sounds 3, we offered like. The bands that were on the bill, there was like I think a month period where we were like tickets are the cheapest, like tickets are $15. Like if you sell them, we didn't have we didn't have physical tickets, and I wish we would have.
Yeah.
But I was like, I go whatever you sell in this month period, like is 100% yours. I go so you like literally like you can if you sell 100 tickets, it's $150 for you. If you sell
that's cool,
whatever or 10 tickets, whatever
great.
you sell, like I was like I go but you get a whole month to do that. I go and then there's like another tier where you get like a little less, and then like I was like the only time I think we were just keeping day of. And it's like, but everything else, like you get most of the majority of it. Because I'm like, and I was because I'm thinking on like my mentality of like, when I was a band, like I would have fucking banked here. You know what I mean? Like, someone's giving me a month.
But then that's the thing is like, not every band thinks like that.
I think that's what I had to realize.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a little shift like here in like something because I'm like, not a shift, but I'm thinking about like the way I used to think about stuff. But I think a lot of it had to be like we would get tickets as a band. Everyone's like, here's your whatever.
Here's your 5. Here's your 5. Here's your 5.
And I'm like, I got to get rid of these. And I'm like, once I got rid of them, I was like, okay, who still has them? Like
that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
So Violent Death, we just played with Filth, and I think Torch gave us 50 tickets, and we sold pretty much like all but 5 of them.
Yeah,
and we're just a 3-piece.
Yeah, when you have them in your hand,
so
it's like it gives you that incentive to go do it. If you're just selling a link, and a ticket link, post a ticket link here, like that's really putting it in the ether, but it's not. There's no incentive to do
also
anything
tangible.
about it anymore.
It's tangible. The other thing is I've seen people do, and it just makes some sense to cut out like even like the printer or whatever is the will call list.
Well, so the other thing I was going to say is if you just have like a normal regular printer, you can buy postcard paper, and I have the format that I could send you, and you can create tickets.
Yeah.
You could print, I think it's either 8 or 10 a sheet of postcard and just cut them yourself.
Yeah.
And you have actual tickets, and you don't have to. You're not paying Ticketmaster or.
What was the one that we
What was
use
the
all
one
the
that we
time? That we have to go.
Pre-Kindle,
Pre-Kindle. Driving up to the
Ticket
fucking
Fly.
place.
Ticket Fly would go.
Yeah,
that was
because the
annoying.
pre-Kindle shipping on the tickets was
stupid.
It wasn't too bad, and then all of a sudden
Shipping was the
it
one
got
that
really
sucked.
bad, and that's why I
hated
started
being,
doing
like,
that.
Getting a stack of tickets back, and I'm just like, never fucking.
That's
paying that shit
that's
again.
why I started the postcard because then it was just
we're not
like,
doing this shit. I think we printed tickets like twice, and I'm like, fuck this.
No.
Like, I'm
I
not doing
think
this.
that's what happened with us. Is we printed a bunch of tickets for a show, and only like 25 of them got turned in.
Yeah.
and I didn't make my money back on the cost of tickets or the shipping for them. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to go buy some postcard paper and we're going to print them at home.
Yeah.
Well, you learn by your failures, though.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. I've seen that quite a bit. Like the will call is like, oh yeah, just you send money, and it's the same. I'm like, what's the modern way to that ticket sale? You know what I mean? Because I remember, I would have to go and deliver a ticket to you and be like, and I would get money in hand. So I'm like, cool, like here's the money that I'm going to turn in later. You know what I mean? Which is the same thing with like, okay, yeah, your name's on a list, you're Venmoing me. It's like, but, and you know, just figuring that part. But it's still the same hustle. You still got somebody like, hey, this is the interaction is done here. I don't have to send you a link and be like, hope that you did it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or whatever. And again, it adds a little more incentive for you to actually go out to that show. You know what I mean? So if you wait to day of to be like, oh, I'll see if I'll make it out there, you know, and show. But if you bought a ticket, then you're like, well, I already bought this. You know what I mean? I'm gonna go.
Yeah. I've never gone to a show where I say I am going to go day of, but I've gone to pretty much every show I've ever bought a pre-sale ticket for.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Actually, it's been quite a while. I was like, gonna say, like, I think it's away with us.
Good conversation.
Yeah.
You're a great host too, by the way, my friend. Yeah.
I appreciate that. I want to just say thank you for stopping by. We can definitely do this again, like, because I'm telling you, like, that one died, and I'm like, oh shit, like that's what you're talking.
We could talk again, you know.
We both have all sorts of projects.
Actually, if you want to, talk, I guess quickly plug in like the projects you guys got going on.
Yeah, I am first. It's the YouTube channel, The Boys Media LLC on YouTube. You can find us. We're doing basically everything on creativity. We have a whole bunch of videos up there right now. If you're a creative mind and you like hearing about other creative minds talk about creativity, that's great right there. I also am now drumming for 2 different bands. A Panther Revival. We're playing June 27th with The Deep End and God, I can't remember the other band now. Treehouse. Yeah. Thank you. You know my show better than I do. So we'll be at 3 Links, and then we'll be hanging around and doing lots of stuff for the rest of the year. And then a smaller band I'm also in, Chronically Miffed, with Jason and Brad, really good guys. And yeah, just rolling along, doing lots of music, and not booking. I'm telling myself I'm not booking anymore. This is more for me than you.
Yeah. So I'm Jonathan. I'm currently playing in Violent Death and Faceic. Violent Death is technical metalcore, deathcore, not so much on the metal. It's really complicated. Yeah. But Rodney and Cody are in that band, and they're just amazing musicians to like work with and play with. Like their drive is it's something I've never really experienced before. So it's just really cool to play with them and like get to experience how they do their band. Yeah. And then I play in a Faceic, which is an instrumental metalcore.
I don't know what
I don't know. It's experimental progressive metalcore. I don't know.
I think that's actually the best.
It's like Dance Gavin Dance meets Polyphia meets their dogs were astronauts. You know, no vocals, all instrumental
with funk breaks every now and then.
Yeah, it's like we just kind of play whatever we feel like because there's no vocals, so there's no structure.
Oh, yeah.
And there's connective tissue because Sam is in both Panther Revival and in a Faceic.
Yeah.
So there's still connective tissue between like the core of FC in that point of where like we'll still see each other now all the time.
Yeah, like we've even talked about playing some FC songs in a Faceic just instrumental. Just because we can.
Hell, we can literally book an entire show just with other bands.
Side projects.
Without FC even playing, we have a full set. So yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys again stopping by. I really appreciate it. This has been episode 112 with Chris and Jonathan. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next time.
Peace out. Thank you.